Yo, what is up guys? Nick McKay here, Let's Drift Media. Thank you guys for coming back to the channel. If it's your first time here, please hit that subscribe button down below. So on today's episode, you guys saw the last video, I picked up this 2013 Prius with a blown head gasket. I promised you guys I would show you the repair procedure so you guys maybe get an understanding. Maybe you want to do this to your own car. It's really not that bad. You could do this on the floor, at your house, in your garage, but I figured it'd be easier to just do it with the lift, and since I have all my tools here, I hate working at home and that's like you forget a tool and you're like, god damn it, I gotta go get that tool. So yeah, just figured I'd do it here. So anyways, let's get started. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Alright, so first thing, as a safety precaution, go ahead and disconnect the auxiliary battery, which is located in the trunk. Wait like a couple minutes, then pull out the hybrid safety plug. Even though we won't really be touching anything on the hybrid side of the system, this is all going to be engine mechanical, it's still just a good practice to do. So, first step we're going to do is pull off this cover. Then we're going to take out the wiper assemblies and the cowl. The wipers are just held in by these 14s. There's a 14 under this little cover right there. And then usually there's like push pins on the side, but since this one doesn't have it, you just really just pull it straight up after you pull off the wipers. Alright, now that we got the front cowl off, we can get this wiper motor assembly, which is going to have a couple 10s holding it, as well as this connection right here. And you should be able to slide that right out, and then there's going to be like 10 to 15 10 millimeters holding this actual metal cowl down, and then that'll give us a whole lot more room to actually work on the motor. So now that we got the cowl off, you guys can see there's a whole lot more room, which is just what we need. Next, I'm going to go ahead and pop off this air box, connect it with the MAF sensor, a couple 10s here, just kind of get this whole little assembly out. You got a PCV hose right here, and then we're just going to go from there. One tool that I would say really helps when working on Toyotas is this Milwaukee 1/4" driver. I have the hex bit on there, but what I put is a locking hex bit and my magnetic 10. So I kind of just leave this on here all the time, since like majority of bolts on a Toyota are 10. And you don't have to worry about your socket falling off or anything. You just get the nuts, get the bolts, call it a day. So I recommend. Alright, now that we got more room, next I'm going to go ahead and take out each coil pack, as well as the spark plugs. That'll make us easier to turn the engine with no spark plugs in there. So take out the coil pack, start pulling this harness, because basically want to get the harness over to this side, that way we have room to remove the head. Alright, so kind of got some of the harness moved out of the way. There's two grounds right here, one right here. This harness was attached back there, and this goes down to the crank position sensor and the oxygen sensor. So we'll get those down on the bottom. We won't worry about that right now. Next I'm going to go ahead and just unplug the throttle body connector right here and the water pump, since we'll be removing that, and also replacing it since it will be off right now is a good time to do it. One little tip that I learned the hard way, I don't know if you guys can see down in there, this AC, let me get a light. The AC compressor connector. I recommend do not disconnect that, or if you do, be very careful not to get coolant in there. I did one of these jobs here at work the other day, and I got coolant in the connector, and it fried the AC compressor. So that really sucked. It's a very expensive compressor, brand new at least, so just a little tip. So I'm just gonna move the harness from here and kind of just pull it over to the side, and then I'm gonna pop off this intake manifold. We got 12s, each little hole right there, and this should just come up, as well as disconnecting these two 10s going to the EGR. Then you're gonna have some coolant lines and vacuum lines down here. You'll be able to get off once you kind of move it out of the way more. Sorry, I'm trying to get a good camera angle, but this tripod's not that big, so doing my best, guys. See a little bit closer now. Coolant line, vacuum hose right here. See it? Another connector, and that's pretty much it. Get the throttle or the intake manifold off. Alright, so as you guys can see now, we're fairly close to being able to pop off the head. I'm just going to go ahead and pop off all these 10s around the valve cover. Don't forget the one in the middle. Pull off the valve cover, and then lift it up and go from there. Alright, so now we got the valve cover off. See, we are almost there. See a lot of signs of coolant in the oil. Getting a little bit more scared, guys. Hopefully we don't need a used motor. But anyways, we're gonna continue. I'm gonna lift up the car, take off the lower splash shield. Alright, now I'm gonna go ahead and drain the engine oil and the engine coolant. Yeah, this guy is like chocolate milk. Holy shit. Alright, so now you can see the other connectors that I was talking about right here. And there's also an oxygen sensor a little bit behind it. Should have brought my other lens, guys. Sorry, this is like my wide lens. Doing the best I can. Since you're down here, I'm gonna go ahead and unbolt the timing cover bolts on the bottom, as well as this oil filter housing. Pull this whole housing off and start unbolting the water pump from down here. And then just get most of the timing bolts you can, and then we'll go to the top and finish the removal. Also, right now would be a good time to remove the crank pulley. My timing is already set, and I'll show you guys how to set that once we bring the car back down, but I'm going to go ahead and pop this all off right now. Also, since we're down here, we are going to unbolt those two 14s on the exhaust manifold, one on each side. A little bit hard to show you guys, honestly. See if I can get an angle in there. We got one right there, straight ahead, and then one right on the other side. And then there's also this bracket right here. God. You want to remove those two 14s And then since we are going to be taking the exhaust manifold with the head, I found it's much easier that way. That way you don't have to worry about unbolting the EGR either. You just take everything up there together. So gonna go ahead and take off those 214s and this bracket, and then we'll lower the car back down. Alrighty, you can see some progress we made. See, now with that harness out of the way, we are pretty much ready to just pull this thing straight out. You're gonna have a couple coolant hoses, 2 pretty decent sized ones running to this EGR pipe right here. So we're gonna go ahead and pull those off. We're gonna have to kind of squeeze our way down there. It's kind of hard to show you guys like a lot of this video, but the lower radiator hose has a metal neck that runs up to this little radiator hose right here, and that is not going to come out with the head. So there's 2 12s holding the radiator pipe down to the transmission. We're going to unbolt those and then pull off the clamp from the radiator hose right here on the side of the block and kind of jimmy it off. That way it won't give us trouble when we go to pull the head. As far as over here, we're going to remove this coolant reservoir with these 10s. Get this thing out of the way. We're going to unbolt these little 10s on this AC line bracket. There's 2. And then we are going to unbolt this motor mount. Make sure you put a jack underneath so the engine doesn't fall too fast. Usually it'll kind of stay kind of where you want it anyways. But yeah, there's going to be a 17 here, 17 here, and there's also a little sneaky 14 on the bottom side of this mount. And then after you get those off, 17 here, 17 right there, and a 17 in the back. Then you get this motor mount off, and that'll expose the whole side of the timing cover and just give us so much more room to work with. So here's the motor mount out. Here's that little 14 that's hiding under there I was telling you about. But now, since we got the side exposed, I can show you how to make sure you're on top dead center on cylinder 1. So down there's a 0. See on the crank pulley, that yellow little line? You want that lined up with the 0 on the actual timing cover. You can see that right there. And as well as the cam gears, you want those lined up as well. Someone's already been in here, you can see, but you want, where this blue line is, there's a little dash on the cam gear, which I'll show you after we pull off the head, because I could actually get in there better. You want that one straight up, like literally going straight up into the air. And then you want this line right here on the intake cam gear pretty much lined up like with that bolt in the corner. That's kind of the reference I usually go off. So that's where you want it. You want to make sure you have timing set before you pull the cover and the tensioner off. I mean, really, it's not too big of a deal. I've taken it off, however, just because when you go back on, you're going to set the timing yourself, but it's nice to just kind of put it back exactly how it comes off. So that's timing 101 for you right there. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is finish pulling off the timing cover. We got some 14s right here holding this bracket for the motor mount on there. In the back, we got 2 10mm holding the timing chain tensioner on. We need to remove that before removing the cover. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that off, pop this off. Let's finish going around the whole timing cover. There's a couple 10s, 12s, 14s holding this timing cover on. Go ahead and finish pulling this water pump off. And yeah, almost there. Alright, once you got all the timing cover bolts off and the chain tensioner, don't forget that, it's time to pop this timing cover off. Kind of the fun part. Now, I usually just kind of put a pry bar, screwdriver right here. Boom. Forgot to take off the radiator hose on the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. Alright, now the timing cover is ready to come out. Boom. So now you can see the chain going all the way down there. We're gonna go ahead and remove the chain. You don't really have to remove the chain guides. You can kind of just throw the back one down and then it'll give you enough room to actually pull the chain off. Probably gonna pull off this little chain guide at the top though. Should give us some more. And just be careful because one of the cam gears more than likely will turn when you give some slack to the chain. Show you guys. Like that. Careful, you don't want to get like your fingers caught up in there. Yeah, you get this chain off now. And yeah, so like I was saying earlier, some people mark the chain and the gear. On a car like this, it's really not that necessary. I mean, you got 3 marks on the chain. Boom, boom, boom. So we're gonna put it back to factory specs anyways with those marks, so it doesn't really matter your marks as long as you can remember where the cam was. But that's why there's timing marks on there. Oh, now that we got that off, we're gonna start unbolting the 12s on the camshaft housing. So this whole piece up here, right above the fuel injectors, this kind of top head that holds the camshafts in, is going to come out. The EGR is still attached by 1 bolt up here, so we're going to have to take out the bolt and then the stud before we can actually pull this off, but I'm just going to go ahead and get started on that. So now you guys can see the head is pretty bare. We actually will have to take off this chain guide because one of the bolts runs through the head. So really only thing left I need to do is disconnect the radiator hose on this side and the other coolant hoses and this fuel line, which is located right here. Just pops this little flap open, squeeze them 2 together, pull it out. And that will all come with the head. This is going to come out with the head. Whole exhaust is going to come out with the head. Right now is a good idea too to get your rockers and just go put them on your workbench. Kind of have them organized because you don't want to be like moving the head and have them fall off. Or when you're getting these head bolts out, you don't want to be knocking them off. I figured it's just easier to just take them off, but it's up to you. But yeah, guys, we are almost ready to pull this head off. You guys see me using impacts a lot when doing work like this, but when it comes to head bolts, I do break them all by hand just to be safe, and always start on the outside edges, kind of work your way into the middle. Don't just go unzapping however the fuck, just play it safe. Start from the outsides, work your way in by hand. I got 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and same on the other side. So like I said, start on the outsides, just work your way in, cracking them loose by hand. And once they're all cracked loose, then you feel free to just use a drill just to pull them out real quick. And now, just like that, we got the cylinder head off, guys. I'm gonna wash all this off in the solvent tank. Gotta go get our new parts. I'm gonna go with factory, Toyota OEM head gasket. When it comes to stuff like this, if you're already this far into it, just go factory. Don't go aftermarket. You don't want to come back in here and do it again. You can see cylinder 1 pretty washed out. Had a misfire for cylinder 1 and 3. You can just see the difference. Look at number 2. Nice and dry still. I mean, some of it's from right now pulling it, but still, you can tell this one is just getting washed out. So, I'm gonna go get the parts, gonna clean everything up, gonna get a straight edge and check to make sure the block is flat, as well as the cylinder head, crossing our fingers. Everything goes well, put a new head gasket on, slap it back together, new head bolts, new everything. So, let's go. Right now it's lunch break. Next off, what we're gonna do, spray some lube on here, kind of just pretty much just sand down the surface. Get any imperfections, just get it nice and smooth. There's a lot of like stains, parts from the old head gasket. Just want to get it nice and smooth. That way you got a nice clean surface for the new head gasket. You could also use a razor blade, that's what I've done previously too, but I'm gonna try out this method this time, the sanding block. I'm gonna go ahead and do that on the block as well as the head. And then take all this stuff, get it cleaned up. I gotta grind or get the fippage or the old sealant off all this, since we're gonna be resealing all of this, as well as a timing cover. That's where we stand. Still hungry, still didn't eat lunch. Just DoorDash some food. Yeah, hoping to get this done today, guys. Alrighty, so we got the block all cleaned up. See, it's nice and smooth now all over. Went ahead and did the same thing to the cylinder head. Got it nice and smooth. Washed out all that chocolate milky water. Right here is the timing marks that you guys couldn't really see earlier. So the exhaust cam, there's your mark right there. That's the one you're gonna want straight up when you go to set timing. And this line right here, you kind of want it like literally like right next to that bolt hole. So you'll see when we put the chain on, it's gonna have a marking to put on this one, and the other one will go here, and then the bottom marking will go, there's a dot on the crank. So you can see, there should be a dot right here on the crank, and you'll put the third mark right there. So that'll be when we go to set timing. Figured it was a little bit easier to show you guys now that everything's out. But now that we got everything cleaned up, I'm gonna go ahead and put our new head gasket on. Kind of only goes on one way. You'll know if you have it on the right way or not. And I do not have it on the right way. So here we go. Boom, boom, boom. I want you in my room. Boom. It's looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and bring this heavy ass cylinder head, since it's got everything still attached, and go ahead and set it on there. Toyota recommends you put a little FIP right here and here. To be honest, I never do, and I've been fine, so I'm not gonna. And also I cleaned off the edge of the block, so when we reseal our timing cover, it's got a nice clean surface. The only thing left to clean up is this timing cover. So that's where we stand. You can go ahead and set the head back on and plug in the hoses over there as I go down there, since that metal pipe doesn't really move too far, and then we'll show you guys the torque sequence. So torque spec on this is 36 foot-pounds, then a 90-degree turn, then a 45-degree turn. So we're going to tighten it in 3 sequences. Start with the 36 foot-pounds. gonna do the 90-degree turn. You can just mark the bolt, like say you just mark it right here and then turn it to 90. That's kind of a good idea too, so you remember which ones you do. But I'm just gonna use this torque angle wrench, just run a 90 on each one. So now basically the only thing to do is put your rockers back on, put some silicone or sealant on the camshaft housing, the one we have over there on the table, and we're gonna seal it back up and basically work in the reverse order. So I'm just gonna kind of time-lapse it until I get to the timing, because I feel like that's the last thing that's really important when going back together. So here we go. All right, double check your marks, sure your dot is lined up with your chain. Same on the bottom. Yellow dot or yellow chain link right on the crank dot. Just kind of keep this over here to hold the slack. And you're pretty much good now. Now the only thing really left is put some fippage on the timing cover, seal it back up, pop the valve cover on, and basically start plugging everything back in you took off in reverse order. All right, well, we are fully assembled. Sorry, I didn't want to bore you guys too much with too long of a time lapse. Plus, it's getting late here at the shop, and I want to drive this thing home today. So, got it all put back together. I don't know if I mentioned, but just one thing when you are going back with the timing, before you put the valve cover on, spin the crank a couple revolutions just to make sure the timing marks match up again. That way you know your timing's on point. Probably one of the biggest tips of advice I could say for doing timing, any timing. But anyways, we got it all done, started it up already. I was gonna just drain the oil and put some new oil, just because that other oil was pretty nasty, but sounds pretty good, guys. Pretty good. Idling smoothly, coolant circulating. That's what I'm talking about. So gonna still drive it around to make sure it's not gonna burn any more coolant, but I don't think it is. Really looks pretty nice under there still. So thank you guys for watching this episode. Really means a lot to me. Sorry I wasn't the best how-to because I didn't really have the best camera angles, and I was kind of in a crunch for time, so maybe next one will be a little bit better, and we'll see what else I get into. So have a great rest of your week, guys. Catch you guys later. Peace!
Hey, Bill, I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a stick up. She picture perfect, so I told him I'm a flick up.